Hello, and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I am your co-host, Annie Morell.
And I'm your other co-host, Ryan Saylor. This week, we continue with Dee Rees' filmography with her second film, the biopic Bessie. Here's a clip.
You just got to decide for yourself. Hell, you got the St. Louis blues, the Chicago blues, the Gin House blues, the My Man Done Left Me blues. They all the same song, ain't they? But the same three chords. And you done heard them about 100 times from 100 people. So what make folks want to hear from you? So you got to put something else in it. The blues is not about people knowing you. It's about you knowing people.
That was once again from Bessie. Last week, we had all kinds of things going on last week, but one of the things was that we covered a lot of supplementary material. She had several short films and one lost documentary before her feature. We talked about all of that. This week, there's very little. There is just this film. Excited to dive into it with you. Up front, we are a full spoiler podcast. And with that out of the way, tell me about Bessie.
I am not a huge fan of biopics as a general rule. I think unless they really try to break from the structure of just, I was born here and this happened in my youth and then this was adulthood and then I died.
I think that would break the structure. If it ended with a narration of now I'm dead, I think that would be surprising.
Yeah, well, and she didn't die in this, I guess, but even though this was a pretty traditional biopic in that way, I did quite enjoy it. I think more than anything for Queen Latifah's performance. I think she is excellent in this film.
Yeah, I super agree.
And apparently so did the Emmys, because this won 4 Emmys, because it was a television movie, and she won for Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Television Movie or Limited Series. I love blues music. I do. So this was a fun watch because the soundtrack is heavily blues music, some jazz in there. I thought it was interesting, and I wonder if it was because it was a TV movie. The big thing that I took from how it was constructed was how much it was like filmed handheld. I did appreciate the feel that gave the film, because it felt like a lot of the time that you were a spectator in whatever room. Those are my opening thoughts. I'm sure we'll dig in more. What about you?
It does fall into some biopic trappings, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'd never really sat down and thought, like, okay, what makes a biopic work for me or not work for me? I think what you're saying is fair. There are the agreed upon great ones. Scorsese, all of them, people at least like, or with Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street, people love them. And he has a specific style I think he brings to those, like the actual person themselves. Jordan Belfort is a vehicle to explore rising and falling. So I think you can use people's stories to explore your themes, and I think that kind of subverts the problem. Or I thought about, no one's Tarkovsky, obviously, but I thought about Andrei Rublev by Tarkovsky. That is ultimately just scenes from this man's life. Sometimes he's the main character, sometimes he's not, but it kind of just jumps in and out of his life. But it creates this through line by starting with insane inventions, ending with insane inventions. I mean, if you've seen the movie, that's obviously a very strange way to word all that, but I'm also staying free of spoilers for that masterpiece. Watch Andrei Rublev. Goodness. Anyway, so I think there are ways to do a biopic that aren't just thematic, but I think you need some kind of structure or through line that allows the pieces to continually be interesting, and instead of falling into things are happening movie. I've talked about I forget what film it was on here, but I've used that criticism before, that a directionless film, things are happening, and but it doesn't make it as interesting. I don't think we're quite there here. Like, this is still an interesting film, but there were a number of times where we got to a scene and I said, okay, well, why this scene? Like, why does this fit into the larger piece? What does this add to the actual, like, film Bessie instead of just this moment? And I think the film does struggle with that a bit. It was a very, very long-winded way of saying that single criticism, but there you go. But yeah, like you were saying, I was very impressed with Queen Latifah. I have a question for you. What do I know Queen Latifah from? Because I spent the whole movie, and even looking her up and everything, I was like, wow, I really know Queen Latifah's face instantaneously. And then I couldn't think of anything that I know her from.
Have you seen the film version of Chicago? I'm assuming not.
No.
First thing I ever saw her in, I remember very vividly. It was Last Holiday, which is a rom-com. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, music? Would you know her from music? She was originally a rapper.
No, when I looked her up, I actually explored her music just today before recording. It's so good, first of all. But no, I did not know her from that either. I didn't know she had a rap career. I have seen Hairspray, the musical adaptation version, not the John Waters film. And she is in that, but I saw that when I was, 10. I couldn't have told you she was in that. Did she have a talk show at some point? Like, what do I know her from? I just don't know.
She's just like cultural entity.
I guess.
The Queen Latifah show was on from 2013 to 2015. So maybe.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, but like, why do I simultaneously, like, instantaneously recognize this person and have no idea of anything that they've done? Anyway, it's neither here nor there, but
it's impressive in a way.
It was so funny because, like, I actually spent, I don't know, not long, but the film opens on her face. Well, it opens above her face and pans down, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Queen Latifah. Like, am I gonna be able to let her melt into this role? And then my immediate next thought was like, wait, what do I know Queen Latifah from? And I have no idea.
Did you ever watch Secret Life of Bees? That film?
No. It's a great title, though.
It's based on a book that is also very good. I would recommend both. I think she's just a very prolific performer, too. Like, she has 121 credits.
Okay.
Acting credits, not even self-credits on IMDb. Like, I think she just works a lot, and I respect the hell out of that.
Okay. Yeah.
She's an icon.
Right? She is the moment.
She is the moment. Yeah, but she's great here. Monique is great here as Ma Rainey as well. And Michael Kenneth Williams, also really good here. This is really random, but there's probably not going to be another place to say it. I really appreciated the small detail, especially considering this is for television, that in the beginning of the film, she is in a fight with a man who's like trying to have sex with her, and he breaks a bottle on her head, and it is this huge gash. And for the rest of the film, she has a scar there.
Yeah, she has that scar. It's
and
great.
I even looked up, and maybe it's just that I'm not finding the right photos, but I was like, maybe this is like a notable feature of this singer of Bessie Smith, and that's why it was like so important to put in the film. But from the pictures I see, I don't see a noticeable scar on her forehead. So I just love attention to detail and continuity like that. I think it speaks the craft of this. I think the costuming is incredible for this as well. But yeah, I agree that it definitely falls into some tropes and feels scene to scene, not really like cohesive, or it doesn't have a thesis. I think I understand who she was, and I think it does a good job of showing like a complete person.
Yeah.
We see the flaws, we see the reason that she was so beloved and all of that. But yeah, I don't think I know what it's trying to say. Like you were saying in Wolf of Wall Street, it uses Jordan Belfort to say something bigger, either say something about her life or use it to say something bigger, and it didn't really do either. So that's maybe why it isn't like transcendent for me.
It tries to take on like the struggles as a woman, the struggles as a Black person, how that intersects, especially way back in the 20s. And there is that throughout. I think there are wonderful moments around that. But yeah, the final scene where they're just kind of hanging out and like, oh, what's next? I was like, I don't know. Like, why don't you tell me?
I mean, we can skip to the end. I think that's worth it at this point. But I initially wrote down like a kind of abrupt end. And then I went and read, skimmed through her biography on Wikipedia. And do you know how she died?
No.
She died in a car crash, or like as a result of complications from a car crash. And so then you take that scene that you're talking about where it's like, where to
Are
next?
they just about to drive off to the
They're
end?
about to drive off to her death, I think is the implication.
Oh, no.
Which I still not
Strange.
sure how I feel about that. Like, and I'll say more. There's a controversy to her death as well, because there was a false rumor that went around for a really long time.
Okay.
But it's like either commit to that or like end it on the high note, like end it on her in that concert hall
The standing
ovation. Like Triumph, she came back. Because I actually think that is a stronger ending, even though it's maybe a little more cliched. But the ending they did was more cliched. So I don't know.
Well, the concert hall, what makes it work, because yes, I agree, it is the performer comes back, standing ovation. Like, we have seen that scene a lot of times, but it's that camera move that has, despite all of these victories, it's still all white people at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like in the good seats, and then it pans up very slowly to all the black people in the bad seats, and acknowledging that victory for this performer versus the societal problem. I actually think that is a very strong moment. I would have been down for the film to end there.
No, you're so right. And then at least that feels more like a thesis statement at the end than just like where to next. And then the implication of what actually happened to her, and the controversy is that so she did not immediately die, and he survived. It is true that her lover, the bootlegger guy, Richard, I think is his name, was with her in the car, and he survived, ultimately. She was gravely injured, and she was taken to the hospital. The rumor was that she was taken to a white hospital and not admitted because she was black, and it was like this whole racial commentary. Not true. And basically one of her friends was like, they never, like, no ambulance driver at that time would have looked at a black woman and driven her to a white hospital. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not what happened. She just died as a result of complications of the accident.
Interesting.
I guess it could have been a worse ending, in that they could have perpetuated that. Yeah. Anyway, very, very strange.
I'm just processing this now because, like I just said a second ago, I didn't know how she actually died. Maybe the idea there then is because the scene is framed hopefully, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's a dramatic irony. Maybe it's that the characters are like, things are looking up, and then it's actually going to be bad. And maybe that's like a larger metaphor for even race relations and the progress we still have not fully made since 100 years ago. Maybe that's what they're going for.
I think you're really steel manning this ending. Maybe. I do think.
Well, I just like, why pick that? You know, I'm trying to.
It feels like they told her, like, no, you need to show her whole life. That's what we want. And so she was like, well, I pretty much did
she went right to the end.
There you go. But she didn't want to end on that. And I don't need to see her dying in the car accident. That's not the point of telling someone's life story, especially when it's just like a random kind of sad thing. She was like 45. She's not that old. But I don't know. I think it's not effective for me. It's not effective for me if what you're saying is true.
Yeah, I could be way off. But before you gave me that context, I mean, all the ending had me thinking was like, wow, maybe she went on to her next great album. Like, I had no idea. So, why, if you assume that the audience does know that, why end in that way? And that'd be my best guess. But yeah, who's to say?
I don't think they did assume that the audience knows that. I really don't. Yeah, I would be surprised. HBO, I don't think you're assuming like, yeah, Bessie Smith fans are all tuning in. I mean, I guess that would be who is watching a thing like this.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, well, who else is this for? Because,
Queen Latifah fans, Ryan, fans of Last Holiday.
And they know her from everything.
Yeah, it's a wide audience because she's been in so much.
Yeah, you know her face. What do you know her from? Yeah, I mean, usually we save it to the end, but please write to us. Tell us what you know Queen Latifah from. I'm so curious.
It's Last Holiday, y'all.
What do I know her from?
Only you can answer that, I'm afraid.
But I can't, and that's the problem.
Wow.
The other pitfall of biopics that comes up often, I was listening to Adam Kempenaar talk about this, and I've never been able to let it go. So he ruined this for me in a lot of movies, and I'm ruining it for you now. Is placing significance on moments that would only have significance after the fact. So there are examples where obviously in the moment they knew something was powerful. Like if you let's just stick with the Beatles, because that's a music artist that lots of people know. So the Beatles performing on the rooftop, breaking the rules, one of their last performances, people knew in that moment that they were witnessing history. But you watch Get Back and Paul is fiddling around on the piano writing Let It Be, one of the greatest songs of all time, and people are talking over it because they don't know that they're witnessing history. But if you were to make a film where, and I mean, you can think of many music biopics from the last couple of years that do something similar to this, you could have Paul writing Let It Be and people stop and turn and are in awe. Like that's the kind of thing where you've retroactively given significance. I think this film does that a little bit, especially in the name dropping.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I wrote down most of them. W.E.B. Du Bois, Langston Hughes makes an actual cameo. Billie Holiday. Oh, there's this young singer, Billie Holiday. Like, yeah.
Yeah. The Avengers theme starts playing.
And Benny Goodman also shows up.
And I mean, I'm sure some of these people really interacted with her. But there's a wink from the film. Like, it knows the audience is going to point and say, oh, I know that person. And that kind of stuff always takes me out of things these days. At best, I can get over it. You know, I talked about, like, obviously, Blue Moon made my top 10 last year, and it has the Stuart Little MCU drop. But yeah, it did bother me in this film that there were a number of moments where even watching it and not knowing a lot about Bessie Smith, I'm not like an expert by any means, but I could watch it, seeing how they were invoking that retroactive importance.
It's very Leo pointing at TV meme.
Yeah.
We should talk about, I think, the reason why Dee Rees was selected to direct this, which is, I kind of was wondering that at the beginning, like, oh, this is an interesting second film to take on, period piece. But immediately we realized that she is a queer woman.
Yeah.
She's a bisexual, question mark. She clearly likes men and women. So that I get now, because Dee Rees, queer director who did a lovely job with Pariah, A Queer Story. There's gender bending in this. I did like Ma Rainey and Bessie dress up as men and go play poker at one point, and I liked that a lot. And there's a little bit of dancing around polyamory, I would say. They're not good at it.
No.
I think if they had the framework, they might have been successful polyamorous couple, hierarchical.
Yeah, maybe. They struggle to be honest about it, and that's the big thing that you have to have in anything like that.
Yeah.
But I was reading about Queen Latifah after the fact, you know, trying to figure out
where do I know her from?
Yeah, just I'll stop. But I swear, man. Anyway, did she come to me in a dream? So she came out publicly as a lesbian in 2012. And so I thought it was neat that she then took on such a vulnerable part just a few years later. I mean, this is a very vulnerable film. She's emotionally vulnerable, physically vulnerable. But then even, yeah, the fact that it does get into this character's sexuality, I thought there was some metatextual stuff going on there, that this person that had just come out publicly took the role.
Yeah, I didn't realize the timing of her coming out. I did know, she's a pretty famous lesbian. If you know her, I guess.
We all do.
As more than just a vague entity. I like that context, actually. And I think it seems to have enhanced this performance, because it's a deeply vulnerable, messy in a good way performance.
Yeah.
And she's, I would say, the reason to watch this, the biggest reason. Or if you like blues, I think it's pretty fun for that. Yeah, I liked the openness of her kind of secret, I guess, in this, that in her circle it was like pretty well known, that she's dating one of her dancers and then also ends up marrying a man and is also having these affairs, and she has him like audition to be her man. Jack G. Definitely an imperfect human being, not only in her like infidelity, but also she clearly has an issue with violence and alcoholism, which appear to, maybe fuel each other. And it's during Prohibition, so she's having to drink slow gin out of ball jars from her bootlegger.
Yeah, great vocab there. That whole sentence.
Oh, thank you.
There's never going to be a place to really insert this, so I've chosen now. So Oliver Platt of The Bear fame shows up here.
Disrespect. He's in so much more.
And other
he's another one that's just like everywhere. I love Oliver Platt. Are you kidding me? From The Bear. Go ahead.
No, what do you love him from? Shout it out.
I don't know.
Exactly. Anyway, so Oliver Platt shows up here from The Bear and is playing a person, Carl Van Vechten. This is a real person. I literally paused the movie. I was like, what is all this? But this is all real. So in the movie, he is at an event. Bessie's kind of performing in New York in a private event for some rich white people. And this guy comes up to her and is like, you'd be perfect. I got to talk to you for my book. And The title is N-word Heaven,
Mhm.
except like he obviously says the real thing. And so she asks him to repeat it, and he does. And then, yeah, she throws water at him, reasonably so. This felt very historical and real. And so I paused because I was like, what is this book? So it's actually relatively significant and something that does exist. So Carl Van Vechten had written a good bit by this point. He was like relatively respected. And then he started publicly working on this, and his own father was writing him letters like, please don't use that title. That's so bad. And
His father.
he just committed to it. And that is the title of the book. Yeah, right? Like, that's someone even older than him. Like, you think like, maybe this was normal in the 20s. But yeah, this book actually had like a lot of influence. A bunch of white people started hanging around Harlem after the fact, because the book takes place in like the Harlem Renaissance and kind of talks about all of that era. And so this caused like a lot of people to start hanging out at bars in Harlem. It made Harlem kind of like a trendy spot, but for white people all of a sudden.
Van Vechten gentrified Harlem.
Yes, from this book. Isn't that crazy?
That is.
Anyway, it's actually obviously like the title alone has made it fall into obscurity, but at the time it was fiercely debated, even with significant Black authors and contemporaries, about its merit. So according to Wikipedia, Langston Hughes, Nella Larson both said they liked it. County Cullen, W.E.B. Du Bois said no. So anyway, very interesting. If you also watched the movie and said what, when that all came up, I thought I'd let our listeners in on that, because I was, I literally had to pause the movie. I was like, what is this thing? Is this real? Yeah, it is. And it's actually pretty significant.
I figured it had to be. I didn't look it up, but yeah, I'm not surprised at all. That it was just too like, whoa.
And it is a whoa moment.
That would be quite the narrative choice. And I think I think they do a good job depicting different types of racism at the time, because so much of it is just like the KKK shows up at one point and tries to harass and set ablaze the tent that she's performing in. But with Oliver Platt's character, he's like a polite racist, basically, who sees Black people as these fascinating creatures and kind of infantilizes them.
Yeah.
And both are terrible. Both are not ideal. And then,
oh, yeah.
And then we get a little like verbal cameo from his character near the end, where she's like staying with Ma Rainey, recovering because she falls into a deep depression psychosis once her son is taken away from her during the Great Depression. Depression during the Depression sucks.
I'm sure she wasn't the only one.
I think it was compounding circumstances. Anyway, she's at Ma Rainey's house recovering from that, and Ma Rainey's reading something in the newspaper about the book and how Platt's character names someone else as the best Black singer of her era, which is clearly the punishment of rejecting him in that way.
Right.
Woof.
Yeah, that through line is effective. There are lots of men in this that, when they don't get their way, rub it in that exact way. So like Jack G promotes the woman that she says like, oh, do you have to flaunt this person in front of me? Because like he's having sex with her. And so like he, behind Bessie's back, like promotes this woman and like makes posters and has an event for her and all that. Same thing happens with Black Swan Records. They act like they're going to hire Bessie and do all this work. And then not only do they not, but they like promote this other woman. So yeah, it is interesting. It's a through line throughout the film that whenever someone decides Bessie isn't for them, they can't just gracefully be like, oh, we went with someone else. They have to like really show it off. And yeah, I thought that was interesting.
They send her the most insulting rejection letter, Black Swan does.
Yes.
And I think they were put off a bit by her behavior and her like shock that they're almost white passing, like they're very light-skinned Black people that run this supposedly like all Black label, which is a huge thing for her that we see throughout. At the beginning, the troupe that she's working for has a paper bag test where if your skin is darker than the paper bag, you can't headline. And she ends up doing a reverse paper bag test when she starts her own show, where it's like, if you're lighter than like a paper bag, you can't be in her show. So there's this sort of discussion of internal racism, I guess. I'm sure there's a better term for it, kind of throughout as well. It's a very nuanced picture of racism, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much commentary on how people just feel so comfortable putting down someone in this position. Obviously, there's all of the racism and all of the misogyny and all of that would happen regardless. But then, like, maybe just subconsciously even you think like, oh, well, they can't reach this person because she's a celebrity and she has power, you know? But it just doesn't matter. Like, people are still so cruel to her. And
Yeah.
I think this film does a good job of portraying that while not succumbing to suffering porn or, you know, like a subgenre where it's just like, wow, look how awful everything is for this person. Like, I mean, there is victory. There is, like you said, nuance to like her character and how she responds to it all. But yeah, it's interesting to see that people just, like, you want to think that enough power, enough influence, you could overcome this, but it's still very present in her life.
I think part of the way that it accomplishes not being this kind of sad story is that she appears to be, or appears to have been, such a badass. Like, she's a
Oh, yeah.
large woman, so definitely could hold her own physically, it appears, with men. But like, she runs off the KKK in that scene where they try to come mess with her. She leads the charge in that, and she's fighting back in these fights. Like, she's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the nuance of that too. It's like, she's not just this, oh, she's got a beautiful voice and she's this delicate woman. Clearly she wasn't that. She wasn't that kind of stereotype in a mostly cool way. The alcohol abuse, not as cool, but what can you do?
Yeah, fair. One thing that hasn't come up yet that I do think we need to talk about, because it's definitely a large part of the visual language of the film. There are these flashbacks throughout the film to her childhood where it seems like she was abused, and, you know, it's all very dreamy. We never get them. It never comes through very clearly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it's clear that it wasn't a great childhood and that violence happened. And I'll definitely state my full opinion, but how'd you receive all of this?
I think how I interpreted that, because it is very vague, as you said, was I like the idea of not being like, let me depict this person's childhood abuse. Like, let me, like, that's a big part of their story. Like, I'm sure that it shaped her, but I think you avoid, you know, trauma porn by not doing that more explicitly. So I did like that. It was almost too vague, but like just specific enough that I thought we were going to get another answer. I was a little confused even by it. Like, I was confused as to who her sister was for a while. I was like, what? Who is this lady?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly her father was like still alive, I think, by the time she's an adult, but we never see him because the fridge is still locked up, and she says something to her sister like, oh, he still locks up the fridge, the food. And she's like, yep. And it feels, again, very TV movie of like, okay, we only have the budget to shoot this one childhood scene, basically. I guess there are two, really. So we'll just kind of repeat showing that, but it's like this moment where she's trying to get into the fridge, but she's calling for her mom. And I thought we were going to get more of like what that moment, that specific moment was. If that is such an important moment that she's flashing back to it, to that memory many times, then what happened and why? Why is it significant? So I liked the idea of it. And so we get that moment. And then the only other childhood moment we see is at the very end when she gets her standing ovation. And I did like this, is it flashes back to, we finally actually see her mother and she's holding her in her lap. And it's a sweet, kind of quiet, silent moment of love from her childhood. And I think that moment would have been more powerful if we had established more with the other flashbacks, or flashback singular, I guess, because it felt like she was trying to say like, oh, now she's free. Like, now she's overcome that trauma and she can remember like the times that she had with her mom, like the good times, and she can hold her mom in her heart in that way. Something like that was what I felt like they were going for in that final flashback, but with all of it together, it didn't quite mesh for me.
It really didn't work for me much at all. And I was hopeful that you would say something that would make me be like, okay, that's how it all connects. But no, I mean, everything you said, but also it's shot with this strange, like, ethereal lighting that's very, I don't know, at least what I associate it with is kind of like 90s television. Maybe that's just where I've seen it. I don't know. I think of like The Stand and Kingdom and different things like that, which are using that in a specific way. So I was already kind of resisting it just because it felt not not right, just because I associated it with a specific era of television. But then we get a lot of these sequences and they're all the same. And I did, also think they were building to something and they just aren't. I just happened to have watched Citizen Kane. Hot take, pretty good movie.
Oh my gosh.
And no, but it was back in theaters for the 85th anniversary through Fathom Events and Warner Brothers. And I won't spoil Citizen Kane if you haven't seen it, but you should just see it probably. If like a listener, I'm saying. But that film very much iconically, it was funny to watch these back to back because that film anchors around this thing from childhood and coming back to that later in life. And that film does so much less to set it up and the payoff's so much greater. And I just wondered what they could have done here to make that final moment hit because it's supposed to be this reunion, but I still don't know all of the problems. So it's just kind of odd.
Yeah.
Maybe they were trying to say like that was this moment of peace that she wanted to find again in life. That's what she was searching for. But it just doesn't quite work. And there's too much of it in the text to ignore, but there's not enough to latch onto.
Was her mom in the fridge? I know she wasn't, but that was a split second thought. One of the times I was like, why is she trying to get into this fridge?
Yeah, why is it so serious? Yeah, what was in the fridge? I have no idea.
She was hungry, but she also missed her mom. Like, that is my best actual guess. Please, again, write to us if you have a different interpretation. I'd love to know. I really don't get it still at all. But this is also another random thing. When she is really drunk and belligerent right before her child gets taken away from her.
If you haven't seen the film and you're listening, so they adopt this 7-year-old, he joins the family, and we actually get some reconciliation between Bessie and Jack because they've been kind of having a rough patch and there's a lot of cheating and they keep promising they're not going to and then they keep doing it.
A kid will always fix it.
That's the takeaway. Anyway, so they have this kid and they start to actually like reconcile, but then they do keep fighting. They have this like little physical actual fight, and he leaves. And then while she's like in a drunken stupor, he comes back and takes the child. So that's the event we keep referring to. Anyway, with that stated, just so that like people can picture it.
With that in mind, she's hysterical in bed and her sister is like taking care of her and she comes over and she kind of makes a snide little comment like, it's okay, here's your medicine, and hands her a glass of gin. And Bessie's like, what? What'd you say to me? And she throws this glass of gin at her sister. This is my favorite shot of the film. She throws it and the glass breaks both on her sister and like onto the camera lens. And there's liquid that's just there for a couple seconds before they switch to the next shot. And I thought it was amazing and very in line with how the rest of it is shot. As I was saying earlier, that you're kind of there in the thick of it. Mm-hmm. The camera is this entity watching in the corner, this live entity. So I loved that and just wanted to point that out specifically. But I also, now that we're on the subject of the son, loved, because it's not that they adopt him together. That's actually not what happens. What happens is she comes home one day with a child and says to her husband in the middle of dinner with the whole house, this is your son, Jack G. Jr. And you know what? I get why. He took it like a champ, but that's kind of her. It's like she is portrayed throughout this as someone who just makes a decision for others as well as herself with no counsel, with no regard. She's this kind of impulsive person at times, but I love the way he takes it because he's initially like, what are we doing here? But then he asks the kid, like, what's your name? And he says so earnestly, my name is Jack G. Jr., sir. And he's like, come here, boy, give your dad a hug. Then that's their son. And he clearly loves him. Like he appears to be a good dad, even though he kind of kidnapped his son a little bit. But that probably was for the best. She didn't seem to be doing very well. Definitely one of the like, it's a dramatic moment in her life we're going to highlight.
The camera work in this movie specifically reminded me of Dog Me films, Lars von Trier, Thomas Vinterberg. I guess not everything they made was dog meat, but that they're associated with that movement, that whole thing. And I tried to look up if she stated that as an influence specifically on the visual language of this film, and she never said anything, but the only comment I could find where she talked about Lars von Trier is a fantastic comment, and I guess it does prove at least that she's aware of him, or was at the time, but never stated him as an influence. So this was an interview with LA Times, and they were talking about Bessie. So LA Times said, this project arrives at a time when there's a lot of talk about race, gender in Hollywood. Do you think things have changed since Bessie and Ma's time? And Rees replied, I feel like artistically, these women had more control over their images and their finances than women today. When Lars von Trier makes a film, they don't compare him to Wes Anderson, but a black woman makes a film, they gotta pull the other black woman and say, let's compare you two. It's like with Bessie and Ethel Waters. You're not allowed to exist separately as artists, and that has not changed. So I guess two things there. One, verdict's still out on if she saw Breaking the Waves or something that was influenced, but I'm going to headcanon that maybe she did. But two, yeah, I'm glad that it led me to that quote, because I thought that was a very interesting statement to make. Both looking at the film, yeah, you do see that a lot in the text, that these different people, these very different artists are compared because they're both black and usually both women. And then, yeah, to be a working black female director today, yeah, that's something, obviously that is a problem. Like the second I'm reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, that is a thing that happens, but you just don't think about it till it's verbalized. So I was glad to read that, and I wanted to shout it out.
Well, and that's even reflected in Ma Rainey herself in that scene that I talked about earlier, where she's reading about the terrible book. Is like, yeah, they just want to pit us against each other. Like, we don't need to do that. We don't need to listen to that. I like that that Dee Rees wrote that in. I assume it was her. She, I think, co-wrote?
Yes, but she has the lead writing credit, so it's mostly her script, at least.
Yeah, there's definitely, I see her, as I know her as a filmmaker so far. I see her in this, which is neat to see. I feel like biopics, even though we've not been the greatest fan of this as a biopic, sometimes a person's directing style, artistic style gets lost. And I don't think that's the case here, which is neat. I liked the moment when Bessie gave that little girl money for singing. That was cute, but also a little cliche, but
yeah,
cute.
Yeah, it worked. It worked for me.
I think it works for her character as they built her.
Well, we're here again. Would you recommend the film?
Would recommend this. Yeah, it's not like my strongest recommendation. I wasn't that excited to watch this, to be honest. I'm not sure why.
I think just, yeah, you hear period piece, biopic, HBO, television movie. It's like you have an image already. And the film kind of does live up to that, but yeah.
But I think it's one of the better versions of that type of thing.
Right. Absolutely.
And like I said, like I've been saying, I think Queen Latifah's performance in this is enough of a reason to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
She's stunning here, and I'm glad she got recognition for that. And gosh, she's such a talented vocalist too. She obviously sings all her own music in this, and it's a beautiful portrait of an icon, even if it is a little by the numbers at times feeling. So yeah, I would recommend it. What about you?
Yeah, I would. It has, all the drawbacks that we've talked about, but if you're into performances specifically, obviously you should watch this for Queen Latifah's, like we've been talking about. But I think even if the film doesn't do the best at putting it all together, scene to scene, it is very interesting. There is a lot of good discussion on race, on gender, on sexuality in here. You kind of have to different parts of it and put it together yourself. But I definitely do see Dee Rees's previous questions and concerns brought forward from Pariah into this. I like how all of that is discussed here. And even if I'm not completely sold on the final product, I think it is definitely worth your time, especially for the viewership that it has. It only has like 6,000, 7,000 logs on Letterboxd.
Oh, wow.
About the same number on IMDb. And it's readily available. It's on HBO Max. I don't know that we're in hidden gem territory, but it definitely is underseen for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to say that.
And if you like music history, I think it's a good one if that's a special interest of yours. And of course, specifically blues history. This is one to see.
I was glad that they let so many of the blues songs fully or almost fully play. That's often in music biopics something that I don't enjoy, is when you get to a song that is actually incredible and you want to hear the song and you want the performance and then they just cut it. It's like, well, okay. So I was glad, yeah, as someone that is into music history, like it was cool to see all that space that is allowed for the blues music in this movie.
Absolutely. And she kills every performance. So it's a treat.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of who she was. So of course you should be showing the music she made. Jeez. Well, do you agree or disagree? You should write to us. I'm gonna take it. I'm taking it from Ryan.
Okay.
You can take the end. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Do you agree? Do you disagree with us? Have you seen it? Are you one of those several thousand logs on Letterboxd? Let us know. We have an email, retrospectivecinemapodcast@gmail.com.
And where do you know Queen Latifah from?
Where do you know
Because
Queen Latifah
where do I know Queen Latifah from? I gotta know.
You gotta tell us.
I don't know. So you have as much of a chance of knowing where I know her from as I do.
You can also, DM us your favorite Queen Latifah film or TV show on Instagram and TikTok. Our handle for both of those is @retro_sin. I am on Letterboxd if you want to comment on our Letterboxd reviews of this and tell us your favorite Queen Latifah film. Annie Morell.
And I'm @Ryan Loves Film. If you like us, you could give us a follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. If you really like us, you could give us 5 stars. We appreciate it. And next week, we get to, Pariah's definitely had more and more acclaim over the years, but I'd still say this is the big one. We're going to see Mudbound, a couple bits of supplementary material as well. I'm excited for all of that. And yeah, whether you are joining the ranks and seeing Bessie, watching Queen Latifah in all of her many things that you know her from, seeing Mudbound, seeing what's in theaters.
The Invite just came out last week.
Oh my gosh, really?
And I got to see a special screening in 35mm. It was so good.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it looks incredible.
And lots of cool stuff coming out right now. But yeah, The Invite, I recommend.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll check it out. No matter what you're seeing though, happy watching.